26, 55 to 60% of the workforce are going to be sole entrepreneurs or gig economy employees. In 2 years, 3 years, there are going to be more entrepreneurs than there are not. And everybody's starting a business because they want life.
So why is that happening? Well, it's happening because companies can't actually afford you anymore. They can't afford anybody anymore, in fact. It's why the wages are continuing to go down. Remember, companies only have so much elasticity. The banks want their money, the shareholders want their money, and the taxes, of course, want their money. There's not a lot of elasticity there. So what do? They have to cut employment, they have to cut wages, they have to keep cutting the things that they can cut because they can't cut the other things, right? This is what happens when you inflate an economy into a Ponzi scheme. That's what you end up with is a situation like this. What young people aren't being told is you're being told that, oh, you're going to be entrepreneurs and so on. What you're not being told is the life that's going to go along with that. First of all, what that means is that, okay, that means you have to try and make a living somehow with no security of any kind. Now, that's fine. I've spent my whole life with no security, so I'm perfectly qualified to talk about this. But just understand what that comes with. That means that many of you probably will never marry. Many of you probably never have families because women are attracted to security. That's pretty much the only thing they're attracted to. They're not really attracted to anything else. Security is code for money. That's all it is. So because women are attracted to that, right, when you take away security for men, that's it. Most women would rather share a man who is secure, in other words, rich, with 50 other women. They'd rather do that rather than have one man that's their own. Right. Now, they may say they want all that fairy tale shit, but when the rubber meets the road, we all know how this plays out, as evidenced by, 80% of women trying to chase after the top, like, not even 5%, it's like the top 1%, or ultra 1%, 1/10 of 1% of men out there. So we see what's happening. So keep that in mind. Entrepreneurs for women, we all know what that kind of means. It usually means OnlyFans, and that's pretty much how that will end up going. That's what entrepreneur means. So just understand the life that you're going to get with this. And it's because companies can't do this. Now, the challenge, of course, is because why did all this happen? Well, it happened because a bunch of banks and politicians have decided that they own everything. Now, this isn't the case. And if you look at, the founders of this country, the founders specifically spoke out against that, and they thought that people should own their property. And they didn't have any taxes, they didn't have any of these kinds of crazy burdens, so therefore they owned all of this. And it's why they codified common law. Common law is in the law, it really is. It's why it's still there, and it's because you're not supposed to just be able to claim you own everything, right? And declare everything a preserve of some kind, or some kind of public, reserve for everybody else later on in the future generations. There aren't going to be any future generations because nobody's going to be having any kids because they don't have any securities. I mean, you see how this works, okay? So this idea that they're talking about, well, it's preserved for future generations, they mean future generations of whoever's conquering the U.S. later on, and right now, not the people that are here, not current Americans. They're not talking about you guys. They want you guys gone. You're too expensive, right? True story. So when these professors talk about this stuff, when they talk about, well, there's going to be a bunch of gig workers and so forth, what they're really telling you is that you're paying somebody, well, what you're really hearing is you're paying somebody at a university level, going 100,000 plus bucks in debt to have someone tell you that you're fucked and you're kind of on your own, so good luck. I'll tell you right now, you're fucked, you're kind of on your own, and good luck. And see, it was free. I didn't charge you anything for that. Now, if you want to send me some sats, go right ahead. You can do so. But I'm not requiring that. I'm just telling you that's the truth, okay? The lifestyle that goes with that is going to be unlike what any of the boomers had. Remember, boomers hoovered up all of everything, right? And they claim they own everything now. And they're going to keep getting bailed out over and over and over and over because they can't have these guys, they can't have prices come down. I've done countless videos on this. You can't have prices come down. That's not how Ponzi schemes work. You can't taper a Ponzi scheme, as Max Kaiser is so fond of pointing out. You can't taper that. So you just have to keep blowing it up. And that's what's going to end up happening. It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And wages will continue to go down and down and down. And this is going to continue until people, younger people, younger at this point, younger means under 55. That's how bad it's gotten. Get it in their mind that you're not going to vote your way out of this, number one. You're not voting your way out of this. Okay, it's not going to happen. I mean, look what we have. Look what we have. We've practically raided every geriatric hospital there was and put them on parade and said that they're going to be our leaders. Are you fucking kidding me? That's the kind of shit that is still going on. And there isn't anybody. Now you could say, like, well, but why isn't there any contenders out there? How come there's no other contenders? Because they'll never make it. That's the problem. They'll never make it. See, part of the other thing that you don't understand about entrepreneurship, this is the part 2 of this. If you stuck around long enough, you actually get a bonus because you get to hear the rest of this, is that you're always going to be a cog in someone else's machine, right? You're not going to like start your own delivery service. You're going to hook up with a delivery service that exists that already has an app and it's all set up. Here's the problem. You just spend your life running around chasing whatever fad happens to crop up. And if you screw up and you start making too much money, they'll change the rules. Remember, all an overheated economy is, whenever you hear the term overheated economy, it just means that poor people are paying off too much debt. That's all that means. That's all it means. So they're paying off too much debt, they own too much shit, quick. We have an overheated economy, crank up the inflation, and then also if you can't get it with inflation, find out whatever it is these people are doing that are making money, how they're making money, and then set up some kind of giant mega corporation that'll take all of that profit completely out of it, totally out of it. And that's exactly what happens every single time. This has nothing to do with any kind of like free market system because it's always going to come down to the money aspect. See, if you fix the money, right, you've heard me say this before, if you fix the money, none of that shit's possible. None of it's possible. You fix the money, you start demanding to be paid in real money, especially if you're an entrepreneur, if you really are truly an entrepreneur, start demanding to be paid in real money. The 50 to 60% of you that he's talking about, you're not going to be real entrepreneurs. You're going to be glorified, somewhat quasi-business owners in name only, but you will be working in somewhere in the cog as a cog in the machine, right? And if you become too successful, they will make sure that that's taken away from you. This is precisely why I point out, going back to this briefly, why is it you don't see anybody else with any fresh experience, any actual real-world, goddamn, on-the-ground experience in politics? Because as soon as that person gains any traction, they are banished off the internet, gone. I mean, it's instant, right? Oh, you might fail to find them on like BitChute and Rumble and a few other alt tech sites, but nowhere near the population that you need to be able to actually pull something like that off. And if you're going to try and do it with like total grassroots, well, then you need to have the populace. You need to have large amounts of people that understand this shit and go, oh my God, this guy, whoever it is, right? I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about anybody else. This could be anybody we're talking about. Is saying something that like is really resonating with people. Yeah, that guy is going to be vanished immediately off the internet, completely unpersoned, right? And you'll forget about him in less than 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks, you won't even remember their name, right? That's why I don't spend a lot of time on this kind of stuff, because at any moment, I could be just vanished off the internet and you won't even remember, 2 weeks, you won't even remember who I was. True story. That's exactly how this game is played. Because remember, the people that own all this are the same people that have always owned all this shit for the longest. These are the same thieves and beggars that they've always been, right? But they get themselves into banking. They get themselves into banking. They get themselves into these positions of having a lot of people owing them constantly. That's how this works. And it starts with the politicians, then it works its way down from there. And before you know it, the entire country's enslaved. That's where you're at. So just keep that in mind when you're talking about the entrepreneurship thing. I just told you the fucking truth. That's really what it's like. And it's no fun. And the odds are, for most people, just for real, the odds are not in your favor at all, right? Because you can't actually own it on the back end. When you're all done, when it's all said and done, you have to be able to own all this shit. Not constantly be paying taxes, not constantly be paying interest on it, not constantly... Remember, like I've said for a long time, if you owned your house, your car, your property, had no taxes and all of your effects, and you didn't have any taxes or debt on it, well then you're basically, for the most part, kind of quasi-retired, are you not? Something to think about.